All right. Well, welcome everybody to another episode of the Keepers of the Peace podcast. And we are here on our beautiful 4th of July weekend, Independence Day weekend. And I'm excited for this show, as I am with all of them. But, this one has a little bit of a extra place in my heart, extra special place in my heart due to the subject matter, of course. And our guests are all awesome guests because they help to inspire me and my family with what we've gone through with our cancer journey, right? So again, I'm really happy you guys joined us. Just so you know who I am Trinidad, and I was a veteran of the United States Air Force. 23 years in law enforcement. Just recently retired, so I'm very happy for that. I'm a 2-time cancer survivor. I have a franchise business called Biotechs with my wife, and we are a crime and trauma scene cleaning company. We're based out of San Antonio, Texas, but we've gone to Houston and we are in Dallas. And so we're very happy for those franchises, and we're excited about marketing nationwide here soon. I'm also a nonprofit founder. That's an organization called Shields for Kids. We go out and we provide for kids in the community that are in need. We do this and we like to emphasize being on our off-duty time when we go out and we provide for these kids in the community that are in need. It's a very impactful organization with one big thing that stands out, and that we like to emphasize that off-duty status. One of the things that happened when I was a policeman is every once in a while I'd have somebody say, "Oh man, you're here doing that because you're in uniform. It's a part of your job." And man, it always got me, because it's not who I am. It's not why I'm doing what I'm doing. I genuinely care, put my heart into it. So when we decided to found this organization, when we founded this organization, we said, you know what, we're going to put this emphasis on that, make sure we don't hear that again. So yeah, I'm very proud of my service to my country. Where's it at? There it is. Very proud of the service to my country in the United States Air Force, and also as a policeman. So thank you guys for joining us. I know there's probably a lot of people still bringing in the boats from the lakes or eating leftover burgers, because I know y'all made too much yesterday. And so I know that y'all are, rounding up your weekend. But then again, I definitely am happy to have y'all here. So on that note, what we're going to do is we are going to recognize the fact that this is a live show. And in this live show, it brings a little bit of a unique situation that you don't get to do it again. So one of the things, I love you. What's going on, Dave? Love you too, mate. I don't know if I didn't do that right. There was no accent to that. So, but one of the things that I love is, this is really from the heart. I mean, not that anything that's recorded isn't, but you definitely are, really speaking your truth. And whenever you do a live broadcast, it has to be your truth, because you don't get a chance to do it again. So I do love that about this live format. The other thing I love is that you're able to ask your questions to anyone that we have on this show. You're able to bring up your questions, and then we'll make sure that we, if we can, we're going to get to them. We do want to, ask your questions to our guests, because, they're the ones, of course, that have gone through the experience or the journey with cancer. And I think that, who better than to answer than from, those with those experiences. So Cynthia, thank you so much from the 100 Club. Thank you for everything that you do. I'll repeat that, going right back at you. So, all right. So one of the things I wanted to do was kind of give you an idea about me as a host, and why this show in particular means, a little extra special is, like I mentioned before, a 2-time cancer survivor. And rather than tell you about it, let me just give you this short video, and then we'll highlight. My name's Rafael Trinidad. Everybody calls me Trini. I joined the Air Force and did a tour in the military. I've been on the department 21 years. I've worked 5 years on patrol, 9 years on SWAT. I've been a robbery detective now for 7 years. January the 5th, and at 4:30, I found out that I have renal cell cancer. How am I going to handle this for my children's sake? You know, that was the biggest thing on my mind. Of course, I thought about my wife, but my children were the ones that, you know, I've been teaching them all these years about how to handle situations in life. And one thing that's important for me is to be able to show through my actions, not just my words. And here was the biggest test of my life. I needed to leave them something that when they were challenged in the future with anything, that they would say, you know, how can I be weak in this moment when my dad was so strong in this one? So they removed my left kidney, let me know 3 days later that it had not spread. So, you know, other than a few complications with some blood clots, you know, I was good.
Come on, Treaty, baby. Nobody matters. Perfect man, perfect spot. Awesome moment right here. You did it, man.
And then January of 2018, found out that I had a tumor, that the cancer had returned, and now it was in my lungs. I'm hoping that everyone will recognize about, you know, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. They fund the research for these doctors and these scientists to be able to research these cancers that are in our blood and to try to come up with a cure. They've already made amazing strides in such a short amount of time with certain cancers. You wonder sometimes, you know, how can one person make a difference? And through this video, I hope to make a difference as one person. But collectively, what we can do this year with raising funds to support LLS is what my goal is, because it would be an unbelievable accomplishment to have the best year ever, to come out and to donate and to support. My hope really is relying on research. That's my hope. That's my family's hope. And that's what this campaign means to me. You know, what we do in life echoes in eternity. My wife got me this chain, and that's what's engraved on that back end. It meant so much to me because it really, you know, that was on my chain before I was diagnosed the first time. And the thing that stood out to me was that, you know, through the way we live, the things that we do in this experience of this one life, what we do matters so much in how you live your life. So if your time comes, you can look back and, you know, take a deep breath and go, cool, man. You know, this was I did what I was supposed to do, you know, and that's what I believe that these people who are joining us today are going to do by sharing their emotions, their experiences, being vulnerable with a very personal issue. Because I already know that I'm not going to make it through this show without getting emotional. I get nervous about these things, and yet, you know, this one by far, out of all the podcasts that I've done, is the one that I've been the most nervous about, because you know, it's just such deep emotions that are connected with all of these incidents. And so that being said, you know, we're we're going to be introducing our guest here shortly. I will be remiss if I don't tell you about our conference that we have coming up for a bunch of first responders, man. It's called our International Keepers of the Peace First Responders Conference. This is April the 12th through the 14th in next year in San Antonio, Texas. We're providing a badass conference with badass breakout sessions for police, fire, military, and EMTs. I mean, this is going to be a very unique conference in that we have such, really cool breakout sessions. At the same time, we're going to have a bunch of speakers and a bunch of sharing of experiences to give these first responders a way of thinking outside of their own way of thinking to be able to handle the challenges that come with life, because as first responders, when we go to work, we put on a vest, we put on a gun, we head out there, we do what we do. I'm sorry, as policemen, we do what we do, and then we turn around and come home, and we still have to deal with the things that are taking place in our everyday lives on top of being, policemen or as a first responder. So this conference is going to be very important. I know for a fact we're going to be saving some lives with this conference. So I'm extremely excited about that. You can get your early bird tickets here soon. They're actually on sale right now. And what is that code? It's the EBGTW. We tried to make it longer, but we couldn't come up with anything else. It's early bird gets the worm. So, join up, grab those tickets. You can visit our website. Those are some of our ticket prices there. I guarantee you go through that list, you're going to see that it's a huge value just with what you get. But then on top of it, the value of coming there and getting this different way of thinking outside of your own, that's really going to help you in so many areas of your life. So we've got sponsorships, things of that sort, but visit our website, keepersofthepeace.com, and you'll be able to get more information on that. Okay. All right. So our show today is about some inspirational people, and they may not consider themselves inspirational, but they are. And I'm extremely excited because I've had conversations with all three of our guests. Well, four, if you include my beautiful wife, who's going to be joining us today. But I've had conversations with three of our guests, and they have helped me tremendously. And so we're going to get right on with that show. So inspirational cancer survivors. One thing I want to show or to express to you is that survivors doesn't mean necessarily to me that they're, still alive. They could have passed a long time ago, but once they got their diagnosis, how did they live? How did they survive? And that's the inspirational part that meant so much to me when we talk about, this particular show and our guests that we're going to have on there. So I've got a wonderful guest that's going to be first up. He is a retired policeman. But before I introduce him, let me just run this quick video of what this guy, just a little piece of what this guy shares with us.
If ever you don't feel you're special, if ever you don't feel like you have a purpose, look at your fingerprints. In law enforcement, we have never ran a set of fingerprints and ever said, wow, in the 1800s, this belonged to John and now it belongs to Jane. It doesn't happen. What does that tell you? Regardless of who you believe your creator is, you have a set of fingerprints. If they drew those lines, they took that time to give you those set of fingers that nobody will ever, ever, ever have again. That tells you that you're special. That tells you that you're unique. And that tells you you have a purpose.
The man that I've never seen take a bad picture, Willie Ng. What's going on, man?
How you doing, brother? Thank you for having me on this show, man. This, I'm glad you're doing this. You and I have, as you mentioned, had so many conversations at different hours of the day. And no matter how busy we were, we always made sure that we made time to have those conversations, to be there for each other. And I think that what you're doing here is amazing. And I'm hoping that people who listen, whether it's them going through the storm or someone that they love, can use our experiences and our the trials and tribulations that we had and how we overcame them to help themselves. And I like what you said, and there's so much truth to that, is that a survivor or a hero or whatever you want to call those who have gone through the storm may not be with us anymore, but by watching what they went through and how they lived their lives during that time of their adversity, they are our heroes. Surviving doesn't make you the hero part. It's how you live your life going through that and what you do with your life during that moment and how you use that to inspire people. And there are so many people that I've watched, and I'm sure you have, training a lot of law enforcement officers that lost their battle. But during that time in that storm, they became stronger in who they were. They loved unconditionally their family and friends. And one of them, that sticks to me is Johnny Rios. I remember Johnny would send me, no matter how bad he was, Johnny would send me text messages, just checking on me, knowing that his time was coming soon to leave this earth. He was still wanting to know how I was doing. And so I'm glad you mentioned that, because just because they didn't survive the battle does not necessarily mean they're not heroes to us.
Absolutely, man. And I'll tell you, if I could, and we didn't give everybody just a little more time to tune in, I would just stop the show after your words right there. Because you're such a, you're so impactful with your words, and I know how sincere you are and how genuine you are. And man, I love that. I love having you on here, man. It's my honor, man. I'm very happy we're going to be able to positively affect some people today. So, hey, I'm going to hey, there's Spence, Ty. Willie is an awesome guy, truly touched by God. That's where I'm coming from. All right. Jeremy, thank you for tuning in. My brother, Willie Ng. Glad you are doing this on cancer. It affects everyone, and we all need hope. It's true. And, that's a part of what's so important about this show, and in different aspects. You have, like myself, Willie, who I always had an appreciation for life. I always thought about different scenarios. Of course, what we see as first responders, we know all the different scenarios that we experience out there on the streets. So we have pretty much daily reminders of how fragile life can be and how important it is to go through your days, not dismissing them, making sure that, you don't let a day go by from the sun up to sundown that you're going, I'll do that some other time. Right. I mean, we're all guilty of it. We're human. But as first responders in particular, we have so many different reminders that keep us, reminded of how fragile and how important every day is. And then, of course, here's what we're talking about, getting a diagnosis. So I know that we have people who don't know, it may come in the future. It may be a loved one. They're listening. We have those who were diagnosed here recently. In fact, I just got a message day before yesterday of somebody who was just diagnosed with cancer and reached out. I'm very happy that I'm a person that they turn to. And we all are going to be people that they can turn to. Make sure we'll give their contact information to our guests here for you to be able to reach out to them. But, so we have the diagnosis. Then we have those that are going through it, that have scans coming up, decisions to make. And then, of course, we have those that have lost a loved one due to cancer. So many different phases that people are going through. And I know that we can speak on just about all of them. And ultimately, as far as being a loved one, we have a few loved ones with us today to comment on that. So, Willie, I'm really excited that you're here, man. We're going to come right back to you. We're going to introduce our next guest. Cool. Oh, and we'll bring up Willie's banner one more time just to make sure that we make sure there. So, Willie was he's a retired SAPD detective. He's a former chief investigator with the Bexar County DA's office. He's the CEO and president of Blue Armor Security. How long has Blue Armor been around, Willie?
Since 2003.
Yeah. All right, man.
We're knocking on 17 years. This October will be 17 years.
Congratulations, man. That's awesome, brother. That's awesome. What an integrity-led company. It's an awesome company, man. And then he also is, again, like we showed on that video, the founder of the Willie Ng Family Foundation with his wife. So cool, man. We'll bring you right back, Willie.
Okay, brother. I'll be here.
All right. So we have our next guest who joins us. He is a part of, I absolutely love being a policeman, but these guys got it made, man. Firemen got it made. These dudes they have so much time off. All of them have extra jobs. None of them have bags under their eyes. They're all just well rested. They're well fed. These guys are awesome. I'm happy that they're there. But I'll tell you what, in all seriousness, these firemen, it wasn't until I became a policeman and listened to the radio and realized, and you don't have to put a radio up like this anymore. You can actually just hear it from your belt. But when you listen to the radio, you hear these firemen, man, and they're getting shot at. People come at them all aggressive, and they start, I don't know if they've seen any fireman calendars. I've heard about fireman calendars, but these dudes are all in shape too, a lot of them. So I don't know why they're picking fights with firemen, but they do. So anyway, I give this guy a lot of credit. It's been a fireman for a long time. And he is inspirational with the way that he continues, along with his family, to push through these different experiences with cancer. So without any further ado, I want to invite Steve Torres to the show. What's going on, brother?
Hey, how you doing? Thank you for having me. This is my first podcast, and actually, this is the first time I spoke about my experience that wasn't just one-on-one like we did with when I spoke to you. So I'm glad that I can talk to a lot more people about this now.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm very happy to take part in that and giving us a platform to be able to do this. I want to, highlight, some of these things that we have for you. It's a 25-year veteran of the San Antonio Fire Department. He's currently a lieutenant. Look at that. Yeah, he's currently a lieutenant for our fire department here in San Antonio, and he's a 3-time cancer survivor. And so, when we talk about the experience of these guys that we have on the show, we're talking from seasoned veterans, if you will, of our journeys with cancer. I want to highlight some people who are listening too really quickly. We got Natalia Rollo. Thank you for joining us, Kathy. Thank you, Kathy, my sister-in-law. I love having family tuning in. When you have a podcast, that's the cool part. You're going to at least have 5 people tuning in. Family, right? So we've got Thomas Eldridge. Thank you so much for always supporting. Trini, stay strong. You're a great inspiration to all. God bless you and your great family. Thank you very much, ma'am. Jeremy. We got Jeremy. No problem. We give props to Willie anytime we can. And then Dave, man. Yeah, you're amazing, Willie. Appreciate you, Dave. Yeah. So Steve, I know that we're going to get into a little bit of our history, just so people have an understanding. With Willie, we'll come back to him. But first and foremost, I want to tell you, without people like you who are willing to be vulnerable, who are willing to share these things, because Steve, you could throw up some videos and some pictures that will instantly get you, teary-eyed. Because we remember, it evokes those emotions of all the fear, the anxiety,
yes,
that comes with the diagnosis and ultimately a journey with cancer. And I definitely am going to get to some things that are going to be difficult. I know it, because I know it will be for me. I know it will be for you guys. But I want to commend you because that takes a lot. And it really is an honor for me to have you trust me with your experiences. If you didn't have faith in me, you wouldn't be here. So I really do truly appreciate that, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you, Trinity. The honor's mine.
Cool, man. Thank you. All right. So we're going to be talking to you here and just, well, you know what? Let's bring Willie back on and let's just get into it. How about that? Cool. All right, Willie. Hey, man. Willie. So, yeah, y'all hadn't said hi yet.
No. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you for your service, brother.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure.
Hey, I'm going to highlight Rosie Vasquez. I'm not sure, Steve, if you know Rosie, but I definitely know that Willie does. Rosie, thank you so much for tuning in. She says, couldn't miss this for anything, already in tears. Rosie understands our experiences, and she's going through some challenges also. So this is going to be good, I know, for Rosie. So thank you for tuning in, Rosie. Hey, Willie, I'm going to have you on the show more, bro. I mean, we're talking, dude, proud to know you, Willie. Miguel Castro. Hell, I might let you take this show over for a couple of weeks.
Miguel is awesome, man. I love that guy. Yeah. Let me tell you something about Miguel. And Miguel knows my heart, and I know that he will be okay with me saying this. Miguel was born with some challenges, and he's never ever allowed that to get in his way to accomplish what he wants to accomplish. Again, you talk about inspiration, right, Trini? I always say there's two types of leaders that I've encountered throughout my life, and you have those who are influencers and those who kind of motivate you to want to be a better person. And the influencers typically are well-spoken people, right? They speak real, they're really articulate, and they get you going because they influence you to do things. And then you have those leaders that don't have to say a single word, but by their actions, it motivates you to be a better person. And Miguel is one of those. I think he's probably half our age. He's probably still in his 20s, but he's overcome so many adversities, and I just watch him. And I love his posts. And I just watch him, and he just motivates me when I'm having not such a good day. Miguel reminds me to push through it because he's done that his whole life and never complains about it. And so Miguel's a special person, and I'm sure that
man.
Once he hears your show, he's going to want to tune into it moving forward every time you have one.
Very cool. Miguel, thank you so much for the support, and thank you for being what you are. I know to Willie, obviously now, but I know you will be to all of us. So I'm interested in meeting you, even if it's virtually, and we'll do the whole elbow thing, whatever. But I do want to meet you. So Miguel, thank you for tuning in. Hey, Willie, why don't we start off with, your situation, how this all came to be with your journey with cancer?
Well, Trini, you and I had conversations, and I'm very strong in my faith. And sometimes we don't understand why we go through things that we go through. But just give a little bit quick history. My mom is a cancer survivor. She was diagnosed with cancer actually right when I was getting into the police academy in '93. She survived it. She pushed through it. She had a really rough time with the chemo. Got through the academy, and then years later, my aunts, two of my aunts were diagnosed, and one did not survive. She died at the age of 28 with several kids. My other aunt survived. My sister then later on was diagnosed, and I would take off every Friday from work and drive her to get her chemo radiation. So all this time I saw them, the struggle, but admired them for overcoming that challenge, not knowing that one day I would be going through that same type of a challenge. So when I was diagnosed, it hit me pretty hard. Because the doctors had told me several times when I was going for this little lump that I found on my neck, and that kept telling me, don't worry about it. Here's some antibiotics. Your blood work's fine. You're working out. You're energetic. You're not losing weight. You're okay. And I was very persistent and wanting to know what this was. And so I pushed for ultrasounds, scans, and then finally we pushed to a biopsy. And that is when I found out February 3rd of 2017 at 4:30 in the afternoon that I had stage 4 head and neck cancer. And it floored me. Initially you're asking those questions, why me? What did I do wrong? I thought that I was living my life right. I thought I was giving back to the community and doing the things that it was my purpose to do. So I felt that way for, I would say, probably 24 hours. But then I was reminded of my family and how they overcame that. And my wife, support for my wife was phenomenal. That was the first time, Trini. If you notice my social media, it's not personal. It's always out in the community doing great things. I don't talk about my personal life, and I'm just very private about that. But I want people I want to motivate people and inspire people to give back to the community like you and I do, because it's the right thing to do. But that was the first time that I decided to post something personal, and I wanted everyone to know what I was going to go through. And I was just floored by the support, not only just from our brother officers like Jeremy Brosh and Rob Ramos and Javier Arguello and everybody else. I mean, it was just a phenomenal amount of support, just text messages, and it always came at the right time. That it was during those times where you were down and you just didn't want to do it anymore, that somebody would send you that text message to say, how are you, brother? I'm praying for you. I'm here for you. Do you need anything?
And Willie, on that note, that's one thing that there was a video that I was going to make. I never published it. I want to, because we're talking about, there's a country song that says, make the call. I don't know if that's I don't know if that's a title, but I do know, make the call. And it's so important that I'm talking early in the morning, because I got buddies at work overnight, and somebody will just send a message, and they do not realize. I let a few people know, but they didn't realize how important that message was, even at 2 in the morning, 2:30. They probably knew I was asleep, expected me to get it in the morning. And at that point, it meant so much to me. And the timing, you just never know how much of a difference it's going to make with that call. Steve, did you get that? Did you get that same feeling?
It was a little different for me. I was diagnosed in 2010. So social media was there, but it wasn't as big as it is. And my wife was having to do individual text and calls to a bunch of people that wanted to know what was going on. So she had to be the, I guess, gatekeeper for messages, because a lot came in. And I didn't know until, maybe several weeks after, because I was, out of it. These procedures were very difficult. And I was surprised and shocked that some people actually remembered me that I hadn't talked to in a long time, were sending me messages. We set up a site on Caring Bridge to let loved ones know about your illness. And that was a big relief to us, because we just put one set of information out there. Everyone got the same information, and then they could leave messages. And I loved going through those messages and reading them. It really made me feel good when few other things could at that point.
Yeah. And, when you're, Willie and I have talked where I've called him up in a parking lot. I'm going to get some furniture, something like that. And I call him up, and man, I sit in that parking lot and we talk for quite a while. And it just means so much to be able to have these messages that come in, when you first get a diagnosis, you have a procedure coming up, something like that. And I experienced that same thing, Steve, of people I had not talked to even before. Like, I'd never talked to these people before, yet they felt it enough in their heart to send a message to let me know how much I had impacted them and how they were thinking of me. And that meant so much to me.
Yeah, I had people that I hadn't seen since high school leaving messages, and I was really, really touched.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Steve, would you mind, go ahead and share what your story is, how this came to be?
Sure. All through 2009, I was experiencing stomach pains, abdominal pains, and I was doing the right thing. I went to a GI specialist, and we did all the tests, and he couldn't find the reason for this pain. Then on New Year's Eve, I was feeling, so sick. My stomach hurt so bad. There's no way that I was going to be able to go to work. So my wife took me to the emergency room, and they found out that I was anemic. I had to get 2 blood transfusions. I was a couple quarts low, if you will. And I didn't know what was going on. I thought maybe a bleeding ulcer. So they had a GI doctor come in, Dr. Miguel Acosta. He was new at the time. He was going to do an upper endoscopy, where they stick this real long camera or tube down your throat and into your stomach. And they can go a few inches into the small intestine as well to take a look around. And of course, you're sedated for all of that. I had that procedure done the next day. I guess it was New Year's Day of 2010. And when I woke up, I opened my eyes and I see my wife is crying. And it didn't register what was going on at the time, because I'm trying to recover from the anesthesia. And little by little, things started to make sense. I'm like, oh no, this is not good. They had wheeled me into a more private room, and the doctor said that he found a tumor that's almost completely obstructing the small intestine, and he's pretty sure that it's cancer. Later, the biopsy confirmed that, and it was stage 3B duodenal adenocarcinoma. Extremely rare. and even more rare for people my age. I was 39 or 40 at the time.
Did you know what carcinoma was when they said that to you?
I knew carcinoma was a type of cancer. I don't know the difference between carcinoma and melanoma or all those other anomas, but I knew what duodenal was because I'm an EMT, small intestine, and I've never heard of anyone having small intestine cancer.
Yeah.
So that later that month, I had a 12-hour surgery called a Whipple. It was, I know what a 10 out of 10 pain feels like now because of that surgery. When I first came out of that, I have scars going all the way across my abdomen. I had at least 3 or 4 tubes coming out of me, and I went home from the hospital with tubes that I had to live with. One was a feeding tube because they didn't want anything passing by where they made the connection. They call it anastomosis. They didn't want anything passing by that. So I had this feeding tube, and I hated the feeding tube. It was horrible. There was another tube that went into my stomach in case I started feeling nauseous. I could just pop open the tube and empty the contents into the toilet. That was kind of cool because no one likes throwing up.
Yeah.
And then
I haven't
another
done it
one,
in a long time.
another one was just a drain to keep all the fluids out. So I felt like a monster with all these tubes. It was very uncomfortable. And then I already had the oncologist pushing me to start chemotherapy right away. So quick surgery to install a port for them to give me the chemotherapy. And I didn't like that at all because I had to go down there and sit for 6 hours, and then they sent me home with a pump, and I'm being infused over the next 24 hours with more chemotherapy. So I'm wearing this pump all day long, being reminded that I'm sick and this is injecting stuff. It was a very low point in my experience. And as soon as that was over, they said, okay, you need to start radiation every day for 30 days. We're going down there, and that just really drains your energy.
So briefly, Steve, I want to get into the multiple times, because you had to go through it once, and that's what we're talking about. But for people that don't know, and Willie and Steve, what does chemotherapy feel like when you're in there and you're getting your treatment? What does that feel like, so people can have an idea if they've never been affected?
Well, I always tell people that, chemo affects people differently, right? Because there's so many different types of chemo, depending on what type of cancer you have. With me, when I initially received chemo, it was on a Monday. It didn't hit me until, and that's a photo of me, my very first receiving chemo. It didn't hit me until like 3 or 4 days later. And it hit me hard. It was so bad. The best way for me to describe it when I tell people is I was really afraid to go to sleep that night because I was worried that I wasn't going to wake up. And you guys know what chemo does. And, it kills all the bad and good cells in you. And so literally it's killing you. And so that's how I felt. And the first dose, I was fine. Actually, I did the first dose in the morning. I did radiation in the afternoon, and I went to school at night. I was working on my PhD. And so it was funny because I went to class, and then, how was your day? Oh, I had chemo and radiation today. But
so how was yours?
Yeah. And if they had a bad day, they certainly didn't talk about it because they're like, it couldn't have been
after that
as I thought. So the third or fourth day, like I said, what happened, sorry about that. What happened though, the second time it was time for chemo, because I knew what I was going to experience, I actually got sick as I was on the way over there, because I knew what was going to happen, what I was going to experience. And it's long. I'm not sure how long y'all. I mean, I think mine, the whole process, because they do the fluids and the chemo and the fluids again, it's like 6 hours.
Yes.
You know, you're sitting there for 6 hours, getting this toxin stuff pumped into you to live.
Yeah, Steve.
Yeah. For me, the first thing I noticed when I walked into the chemo room, there's people in all different stages of chemo and cancer and different types of cancer. You can see some doing well, and then you see the other end of the spectrum, and you're hoping that you're going to do better than most. And you start to identify that smell when you walk in there, and you start to dread. It's the disinfectant that they use. But when I started chemo, it felt like at first a real bad flu, and then I became overly achy, and I had this constant nauseous feeling, and I don't know whether it was from the chemo or from all the surgery that I had, and I guess it didn't really matter, but I knew that it was just adding to the discomfort. They gave me pills for the anti-nausea, and that worked great, but they work by pretty much making you sleep. So I'm missing out on a lot of life. So I became just the guy who goes for treatment and sleeps, wakes up and goes for treatment and sleeps, because I couldn't do it any other way at that point until I got a little bit better and things under control. Then I could start re-engaging in parts of my life. So it was a roller coaster. It goes up and down. You're going to have bad days where you can't do anything. You can have good days where when you can do stuff, you should do stuff. And
so I know, Steve, we and I thank you for sharing that. One of our viewers, Jen, said it feels like you want to die. And I've heard people, they don't handle it very well. And man, they're just, they dread it. And when you go in and you see these people getting their treatments, I mean, like you said, Steve, there's such a variety. I mean, it's weird because, we talk about the current state of affairs right now, and we talk about different races, bringing up different subject matters. But when you enter a room like that, there are no lines drawn anywhere. We're all just one. We're here. Yeah. We're going through this, and it's the young and the old. Right. I'm 51 now, but I was, I don't know, 40, 46, something like that. And I was the youngest cat in there. And so I got some looks when I walked in, but hey, Steve, just I wanted you to continue on with, you got your first diagnosis, remind us of the year? 2010?
That was in 2010.
2010. Yes. And then what happened the next 2 times? How did that go? What was that?
Well, I ended up being able to go back to work in August of the same year. I thought that was amazing. I was still on these regular checkups, like every 3 months I was going to get screened. And because of those frequent screenings, in 2012, they found that I had colon cancer. And I asked the doctor, did my cancer come back? And he said, no, it's a different one, a completely new, separate, different cancer. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know that happens, especially within 2 years. So that involved another major surgery and more chemo. I went back to work that same year, several months later. I'm going through the screens again. 2 years after that, now we're in 2014, I'm told that I have bladder cancer. Again, was this from any of the other cancers? No, it was completely different, separate, distinct. So I had 3 different types of cancers in less than 5 years.
Wow. Whew.
But I'm running out of parts to get cancer in, so that's good.
Thank you for that, Steve. Holy smokes. It's exhausting, man, because we know what goes with all of that. It's so brief on a video, but we know what goes with every one of those different incidents, because mine, just as a brief little deal for people who may not know, in 2016, I was diagnosed with kidney cancer. And they told me, all right, you've got this growth in your left kidney. And went in, thankfully, ended up having surgery, and they removed my left kidney. And I was very, very fortunate that it had not spread. 2018, it came back. And one of the weird things was when it came back in my lungs. And I was like, well, okay, so it's a new cancer. And no, this is kidney cancer. It's just now gone to your lungs. My particular situation was that it was pushing up against the main artery, and nothing was going to work except experimental drugs. Because one of the things that I think is important is when we talk about cancers, I think it's important for people to know that cancer is not a blanket statement. We have Lucy here. Lucy says, thank you for sharing these live experiences, gentlemen, especially when some of us have family members that have died of various kinds of cancers. We don't know if we inherited some of these kinds of cancers and don't understand the symptoms. So it is scary because, for instance, kidney cancer, traditional chemotherapy doesn't work. And people would think, okay, hey, just, you get chemo. My uncle got chemo and he did this, and it doesn't work like that for kidney cancer. So I think it's important that people know, as an educational part of this program, is not all cancers have the same medicine, have the same percentages of survival. Right now I'm living like that video said, with the less than 8% chance to live past 5 years. And I'm 2.5 years into that. And that's pretty scary. But like Willie and I have talked about, and Steve, we've shared this also, the goal is to be your own statistic, because Willie has very eloquently put, dude, they don't know your body. They don't know, what your immune system's capable of. They don't know you, right? And that's the same thing that it felt good because I knew this, but having somebody who's gone through it tell me that just reaffirmed, cool, man, because not that we don't appreciate people's comments or support, because without a doubt we do. But it definitely has a different feel when it comes from somebody who's actually gone through it. It just has that little bit more of a oomph to it, if you will.
Yes.
So that's a little bit about where I'm at right now. And so let's see. Spence says, you survived 3 cancers. Bro, you're a tough guy. He is. He is. Hey, well, one of the things that I know some people have asked and wanted to know was, we talk about that fear and that anxiety. So as a person who has gone through it, because we have some guests that are going to be able to come. In fact, you know what? Let's bring them on real quickly. First person we're going to add to our show is going to be somebody who I personally am indebted to for helping me through this whole process. And that is my beautiful wife, Audrey Trinidad. What up?
Hi, my handsome.
Hey, whose house are you in?
The beautiful house that you built me.
Well, that's cool. All right. So my wife, Audrey, is joining us on the show. She's going to give us some insight on some of these comments, and some of these viewers, Audrey, are people who have loved ones who have been affected by cancer. So you've heard what you've heard to this point. What are some of the comments that you have?
Well, I think that, first of all, it's wonderful that you guys are willing to share that, because it's always difficult to share those emotions and the fears that go along with that. But as a wife of someone on that journey, the cancer journey, it's very, very difficult, because I feel that I find myself trying to be strong for my husband. And that can be exhausting at times, because you want them to stay focused on their battle and not have to worry about you. My husband loves me. He loves the children. He doesn't want to worry about us. So sometimes that becomes difficult, but it is something that together we've been very blessed that we have a lot of friends and family that have stayed by our side and been there to support us. So I know that we can get through. That's a great picture there. That was That was January 11th of 2016 when he went in to have his surgery to have his kidney removed. They took a 2.5-pound tumor out with his kidney, but the amount of
Hey,
people that
I
showed up,
just wanted to show my abs. You can kind of see them.
it was 11.
They're there a little bit.
Centimeters. That's how big it was. But the amount of people that showed up, it really is impactful, not only for him but for us too. So I'm glad to share that with you guys, and I thank y'all for doing this for so many people, because my husband's goal is to help other people in this time. He's always told me, I won't want anyone to ever say, if cancer is what ends up being the reason that I pass, I don't want anyone to ever say that I lost my battle with cancer, because that is not the way it is. Every day I'm beating cancer. When I'm enjoying my children, I'm enjoying life, and I'm enjoying and helping others. So I've always clung to that.
Steve, Willie, I know you know it's not whether cancer is the purpose, the reason that we die, because everyone's going to die. Guess what, everyone out there listening? None of us are getting out of this alive. We're all going to die. So it's not about, our death, man. It's really about how you live. And that's what this is about, man. Our celebration of how we push through these situations and ultimately how we live our lives. And that's what I love about, all of our guests there. Steve, Willie, what is your take on, once you get a diagnosis, obviously there's that fear, that uncertainty. We have, I cried many, many times. I looked at my wife and you wonder, oh, she's beautiful. She's young. I obviously, something happens, I want my wife to be happy, and, there's companionship. You want to talk about, the seriousness of it. I mean, we're all humans. We want companionship. I get all that. I think about my kids, and one of the toughest questions I had to deal with during that time, because there were a lot of different questions and things. But when my daughter asked me, when it got tough, especially with that second diagnosis, when she asked me, Daddy, if something does happen, who's going to walk me down the aisle? And, you want to talk about a ton of bricks hitting you, that's a tough one. And so I've always been really real with my kids. So when this situation came up, I think that really helped. Steve, Willie, before you were diagnosed, I know you guys have been positive people. I know that, I knew who you were before. Did life intensify? I mean, it may sound silly, but I mean, what did a diagnosis with cancer do for you after that initial phase of that fear, that anxiety? You got a little bit of a handle on it. What ended up being your goal? What ended up being something that helped you?
I was struggling with trying to find out why this is happening, particularly after the third cancer. But with the first one, it was still a big shock. What's happening? My wife, those caregivers are so important. They're so underappreciated. As much as I can say good about her, it's not enough. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her. We were given a gift shortly after my first diagnosis. We found out that my wife was pregnant. I already had a son in middle school. So hearing that my wife was pregnant, that made everything crystal clear. Okay, we're just going to go ahead and win this. We're gonna fight. We're gonna win. We're gonna do whatever it takes. And that's what we did. My oldest son is now in the Marine Corps, and my young son.
Appreciate his service, man.
He's turning 10 years old next month.
Wow.
So I was given this gift to say, this is the reason why you are going to suffer and overcome everything that you're about to go through. And I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Talking about, that mental strength. Obviously, we had a support system there. So important. But we all know that there are those that don't have that support system. One of the things that crushed me, Willie, was when I would go in to listen, to get the results of the scan, and it really hurt my heart of how many people were in there by themselves. And this was not COVID. This was before COVID, and man, it blew me away that they had to go into these appointments. They had to hear these results. Not only if the results, if they came back good, then, okay. But if they're not, that's difficult. And, again, with Jen, she talks about, I was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer last year at 47. I had 6 months of chemo and had the bottle to take home for 48 hours. I, too, was the youngest there, and I'm the first person in my family to get it. And, with Jen, some people don't have as much of a support system. I can't imagine that struggle, but Willie, how important is it to be able to have a mindset when it comes to working this out amongst yourself? Because although I have my wife with me and my family, there's still those times where not even that's enough. I mean, you struggle, and you're in a home, and the weirdest part is being with a bunch of people and still feeling like, damn, man, I'm at this party and I don't want to bring anyone down, and I want to have fun, and I'm coming out to have fun and to be light, but there's that little hard drive going on in the back of your mind. Willie, we've talked about sharing with each other how that can be difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, it's a constant spiritual battle, right? I mean, Trini, there were times you would call me and I was there for you, and I would, give you those words of encouragement. And then a day or two later, I'm texting you. It's a constant spiritual battle. I mean, anytime, even though you get that scan and they say the cancer is gone, whenever you feel something and your body and you feel something that doesn't feel right, before cancer, you would have thought, well, it's just something I ate. All right. Or it's a stomach flu. But after cancer, your stomach starts to hurt and you think you have stomach cancer.
Yes.
When you start doing the worst thing possible. And for those listeners out there, if you're going through the battle, do not Google your symptoms.
Oh, man.
If you Google your symptoms, you probably died like 5 times already, right? I mean, I would Google and I would rush the doctor and I would give him I Google diagnosed myself and I had all these things going on. And I tell the doctor, I've got this, I have this cancer, I have this. And he's going, are you crazy? Get off your Google. So it's tough. It's a constant spiritual battle. And we need conversations like this to let others know that you're not alone, that what you feel is, unfortunately, is a normal thing. You could be as strong as an ox, but you're going to have your moments. Absolutely. And you need friends like this, like you, Trini, and others that have gone through the storm to lean on. You remember Larry Price.
Mm-hmm.
Larry Price was diagnosed, and he went through a very tough journey. But I remember Larry, out of the blue, we knew who we were, each other were during the police department, but we never really contacted each other. But he reached out to me when I was going through that battle. And he says, if you ever start to feel depressed, you call me. I'm going to go to your house. I'm going to drag you out of your bed. We're going to go for a walk, a jog, a ride. We're going to do something. I'm going to get you up. And Larry said something to me that really hit home. And for us first responders, will understand this. Larry told me, he goes, Willie, you are so blessed. And I remember thinking, what the hell are you talking about? When I started chemotherapy, I was weighing 220 pounds and now I'm 165 pounds. I feel like crap. I feel like I'm dying. How am I blessed, Larry? And Larry says, because you have an opportunity to get your life right.
Yep.
And think about this. Even, firefighters, police officers, how many times do we respond to a call on a major accident or a shooting where somebody loses their life just like that.
Absolutely.
They never had an opportunity to tell their loved one, I love you. They never had an opportunity to tell the person, I'm sorry for what I said. It was ridiculous. Restoring relationships, building relationships. So when he told me that, it really dawned on me and really hit me that, yes, I'm fighting for my life, but every time I open my eyes, I'm blessed with another day to make it better.
Absolutely. You're in the fight. You get a chance to fight.
Right.
And that's what's, somebody once said, that you can make cancer a gift.
Mm-hmm.
And that's difficult for people at times.
Yeah.
Especially if they've never gone through it and understand. But you have an opportunity to do something that so many people, and it's a Keepers of the Peace podcast. So we highlight first responders. You know how many first responders never get that opportunity, man. They leave out the door and they never come home. And so being able to change the way you look at things, so things you look at change, is what I believe a diagnosis with cancer can do for you. And if you can find something that's bigger than yourself, it can help. It's a mental, that's what I want to get into next, is that mental battle. And I want to invite my next guest to come on, because she went through a journey with cancer with a man that I went through the academy with, that was an instructor of mine. I don't know if Stephanie knows this or not, but Jerry was an instructor of mine. And I could see him, he would joke with people, but he never joked with us that much. I mean, he was an instructor. He had to be, he had to make sure he influenced us, a certain way. But I'll tell you what, that man has a story even outside of cancer that is unbelievable. And it was extremely inspirational for us with an incident that he went through, that he had to recover through. Jerry had experiences that I believed we all need to pay attention to our challenges and our struggles in life, because in this particular subject matter, I believe that all those challenges and struggles are what prepared me for this biggest battle in my life, which is going to be this diagnosis with cancer. So without further ado, I want to invite Stephanie Whitson to our program. Hello, Stephanie.
Hey.
Can she get us? I think she might be a little frozen. Oh, okay, there you go. Hey, Stephanie.
You can hear.
Ooh, I think
It's a little stalled. Sorry.
it's all right. It's all right. It'll probably catch up with us. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us. Uh-oh, I don't know if we can get her in. Maybe Stephanie, if you can hear me, maybe if you sign off and then sign back on, and then we'll have you join and see if maybe it'll help us catch back. But Stephanie, let's see if she can get us. All right, Deanna and Carly, they'll get hold. It's all right, Stephanie. Come on back. That's all right. It's a live show. It's part of what comes with it. Trust me, especially on this show, we'll get through this. It'll be all right. So what do you say before Stephanie comes back? What do you say to that, Steve, about you can make cancer a gift?
Yeah, I had heard that, and I searched for a long time, because I just mentioned I was given the gift, and now what was the purpose of me getting cancer 3 times? And I recently discovered what it was. In the fire department, firefighters are getting cancer at an alarming rate.
Yep.
And you hear about the deaths. So now when we get diagnosed, automatically they drop into a depression. And then someone goes, look at Steve over there. He had it 3 times. He's at work right now. So it's not an automatic death sentence. It's not, as you can consider it like just another illness. You're going to have to do some treatments. You're going to have to fight. You're going to feel bad, and then you're going to get better, and you're going to carry on. It isn't the end of the world. And that's what most people, I think, when they get their diagnosis, oh no, I have cancer, I'm going to die, that's it. Well, that's not true. And I think I'm here to be the guy you point at, say, look, he did it, and you can too.
Did they give you any odds? Were there any kind of like, oh man, I'll tell you what, this doesn't look good. And
well, the clinical research said that it was just a 5% survival rate, and which is really poor.
Wow.
And what got me and what angered my wife was my surgeon, when I asked him, how does it look, doc? He said I had a 50-50 chance of survival, of making it out of the hospital on the first time. So that was a coin toss to me. Flip a coin, heads or tails. And my wife struggled so hard to break that mindset and clear that away, because that was just toxic, because that's all I thought about. And I'm very grateful that she did that.
And that's normal. I felt it. Willie, I'm sure you felt it. That is normal to not feel okay when you hear some stuff like that, man. This is a journey, though. That's what you felt. It's only normal to feel that. Keep going.
Where was I? What was I talking about?
So when they gave you those percentages.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I bring this up, Steve. The reason I bring this up is because sometimes people who are listening in, they may be just going through this. And so there is a part of this that I want to make sure they know it's okay to not be okay.
Yes.
It's important to know there's nothing wrong with you for thinking, oh shit, they just don't. Who's going to get on a plane with a less than 5% chance that it's going to reach its destination?
Yes,
no one.
And how they
that's
arrive
the ride you were on.
How they arrive at those percentages, you really have to look at the research. In my particular case, it was a cohort of maybe 300 80-year-olds. And well, I was 39 at the time, so I didn't really fit in that demographic.
Right.
So I have some things going for me. The youth, I don't have some of the comorbidities that people in their 80s have. Definitely have a more or a better survivable profile after the surgery. So those statistics are, I don't want to say they're meaningless, but take them with a grain of salt until you figure out where they came from. A lot of times it's not even on patient contact where they figure out who these people are. They just look at numbers, and that's all that they care about to get the statistic.
I love hearing that.
So you do you, that's, you got your own thing.
And Trini, we've had that conversation before.
Yep.
Even that clip you showed early on, when I'm talking about being so unique and special in law enforcement, we've never ran a single fingerprints where, in the 1800s it belonged to one person and now it belongs to someone else, which I always give that analogy to people in motivational conversations, that you're special, everyone's unique. So I had that conversation, Steve, with my doctor. When he said stage 4, I said, okay. After a while, I said, why do you, every time we have the conversation, why do you have to keep bringing it up the stage? And I don't believe in the percentages. Just like if I really truly believe in that you're special and unique due to your fingerprints, which I do, then those percentages and statistics don't apply to anyone, because you are you. And depending on who you are, how you're built, your heart, your mind, your support group, how you eat, everything, that's going to determine your survival rate, not some statistics where their participants don't even equate to who you are, because they're not. They never will be. You're you. So I always tell people when they get diagnosed, look, let's not even focus on that. Let's focus that you have cancer and what you need to do to beat it. That's it. Don't worry about everybody else and who survives and how many. Because I fell into that. This friend of mine, his mom had the same kind of cancer, and it came back 5 months later, and she ended up passing because it went to her brain. Right away I freak out, but then I start looking back. Well, hold on. Number one, his mom is not me. I'm not his mom. and she was 85, and so I always tell people, don't look at the stats. Don't even worry about that. You're going against yourself. And let's focus on you and getting you through this, and we're here for you.
And I know that when you say that, I know that when we've talked, when you're in it, when you first hear it, It's not as easy to hear. It's
Right.
not as easy to believe in that. It's progressional. The first day you hear that, if you hear somebody were to say that, right, you would probably think, oh, dude, I just got this. And it's hard to break through that because you and I, Willie, we like we talked about, you had your pain, and I don't know if it was your neck. I think it was your neck.
Yeah.
And you were, but then afterwards you start talking about that pain, and we're both like, hey man, remember, I remember what you told me the other day. It helped me. Let me tell you the same thing.
Right.
You're like, you know what, dude, you're right. And so I want to make sure that people know that it's definitely a progressional way of thinking. You're reprogramming because you didn't have cancer and now all of a sudden you do. That's a whole different way of looking at everything, man. Everything is changed. And that's one thing I think that my training helped me with is that, when you're in a situation as a first responder there, Steve, when you're in a fire, and you're in the house and you're trying to maneuver to get to the, whatever you guys get to, the core of the fire, to get to somebody you need to rescue. There's no time to go, okay, time out. Let me back out. Let's go through this. Let's whiteboard it. No, you're there. It's time to just take action. Yeah. And that to me is what helped me. And so if anyone's out there that I could help with this way of thinking, start practicing now on that way of processing things. Start practicing now, because whether it's cancer or anything else, man, we're all going to lose loved ones. You live long enough, life intensifies. You're going to lose loved ones. You're going to get sick. We're going to have financial situations. You may get divorced. Whatever it may be, there's going to be challenges coming your way. So training your mind to be able to process these things and start to categorize them and go, okay, like Willie said, I may have these horrible odds and it may be in a bad spot, but I have no choice. I accept this. And I think that was a big part for me, was accepting, okay, here I am. Can't do anything about it. I've got cancer now. So now it's time to just say, I got it. Now it's got to be a part of my deal. And now I got to start working with it, not against it. Because I think when you fight it and you're in denial and it's like, no, and why, which why is natural. Don't get me wrong. I sat there and wonder, like, what the hell did I do? It took a little while to go, it doesn't really even matter. You'll rack your brain against a freaking cement wall, right?
You were never, why me?
No.
I never heard you say, why me? No. As a matter of fact, you said, why not me? So I think it's important the way you set that example, not just for the children, but for me too, because it's always been that way for you. It's the same thing when our son was born, and we didn't know what he was born with initially. And you looked at it and said, he's healthy. We have a boy. Everything else we can get through. Oh, yeah. And so it's the same thing. Oh, yes. There's our little boy Trip. He was doing fabulous, and he is an absolute blessing to our family. He has helped us in so many ways. And even though cancer can be so ugly in so many ways, it can be a blessing because it has forced us to intentionally live every moment. And it's weird to say it, but for that, I'm grateful. I'm grateful that we aren't letting our days pass by quickly. We're enjoying them. We're just living more intentionally.
I tell people all the time, that if God came down and said, hey, Willie, I'll take this all away from you, all the worries and the insecurities of getting cancer again, and I'll wipe it all away as if you never ever had cancer. The side effects will go, the neck pains will go, the headaches, everything. Would you do that? And I say, absolutely not. I think that we are who we are based on our experiences. And I think that this experience, as you mentioned, Trini, is a gift and has made me a better person than I was before. I have a tattoo on my chest where they had to give a little dot. So that way, every time I did radiation, they knew exactly where to line me up. Mm-hmm. So every morning and every night when I see that, it's a reminder of what I've gone through and what I've overcome. through me with my faith and with my family and my friends. So it's an odd thing to say, but it's a blessing of who it's made me become today. I've always been a person who's always wanted to plant good seeds in people, even before going through this journey. And I remember I was at UTSA speaking to about 250 college kids, and I told them that historically with me, when I go through a storm or a trial or a tribulation, whatever you want to call it, I said, I get excited. I said, because I know something better is going to come along. And I said, think about the most beautiful things are created in fire. When you look at gold, for example, when gold is processed, it's a black rock, but it's put in the fire and it's taken out, and they pour the gold through a screen to take out the imperfections, and they put it back in the fire, and they process it over and over in the fire, out of the fire, in the fire, out of the fire, until the person who's processing the gold takes all the imperfections out, and they can look down at the gold and see the reflection, their own reflection. So every time I go through the storm, I get excited because I feel that some imperfection is going to come out of me and I'm going to be a better person. I said that a year before I was diagnosed. When I was diagnosed, as I mentioned, very personal, private, not outgoing on social media, but I posted it. Well, a college kid from a year ago sent me a message and said, I bet you're excited. And it hit me at that moment. She remembered, and she remembered why I should be excited, because there was going to be some imperfections taken out of me, and I was going to be a better person after that.
Awesome.
And that's true. It's very true.
Awesome.
I'm a much better person than what I was before.
Willie, awesome, man. And Steve, on that note, with what Audrey talked about, we're trying to get Stephanie back on, but on that note, when I talk about what Les Brown says, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. One of the things that really helped me a lot, and I want to share this with these people that are listening, is when I had this thought, man, it came to me, and it really helped me so much when I thought, okay, as a father, as a husband, I would sit there and I would say, man, if my son had cancer, if my daughter had cancer, she was faced with, my wife had cancer and she was faced with these odds, or, at the time they're telling me, hey, there's nothing we can do for you. We can't do surgery, pushing up against that main artery. Their only hope is these clinical trials. It's MD Anderson, talking. And I remember thinking that if my children or my wife had cancer, I would be sitting there going, why couldn't it have been me? Why them? Why not me, man? Just let me take this. If I could do anything to take that from them, I would. And then I thought, shit, I got it. All right. Well then, hell, I don't even have to ask. I'm glad it's not my kids right now. I'm glad it's not my wife. And yeah, you're playing mind games, but aren't mind games important?
No.
Isn't that what it takes to get through something like this? Steve, what would you say?
Yeah, I agree. I've said that, I hope I've gone through all this so my sons don't have to. I had mine and two more, so two sons. I'm hoping it works out that way. But the proper mindset is key, and the support of someone is also important. I feel bad for the people that are alone and don't have anyone to remind them of their appointments, to go to their appointments, to get out of bed. Everyone needs someone in this battle. And I hope to be there for some people that don't have anyone, even if it's just to talk to them.
Awesome. Well, we're going to talk about that next. I think it's very important right now to talk about, what do you do if you don't have someone? Oh shit. There's going to be an interesting one here. All right. So we're working on getting Stephanie back on. She'll be able to help us. But listen, here's the thing. For those who are going through this, how do we help them? Now, here's what I've learned. Because again, going through this journey, and it's important for people to understand, you can have the best support, ever, but there's going to be a time you got to deal with just yourself and your own thoughts. And we all know those voices that go on. So how do you battle that? That's a key thing. Going along with our International First Responders Conference, Keepers of the Peace First Responders Conference, giving people a way of thinking outside of their own way of thinking to help them with the challenges that are coming their way with what life comes with, right? Who are some of the people you've turned to? Not that you have ever met personally, or I shouldn't say that. You could have met somebody at a conference or something like that, but I'll give you an example. Les Brown was extremely important to me. Les Brown went through cancer himself. He's a great speaker, very impactful. He helped me. You want to talk about Alan Watts? Alan Watts helped me to deal with kind of like the simplicity of what I was going through. Like, hey, whoever promised you were owed a certain amount of time? Mm-hmm. I was like, okay. Then he starts talking about life, nobody escapes it, right? All these different ways that, we talk about Steve and we talk about Willie, these things that we're talking about. Yeah, there are things that we came up with on our own, but who did you turn to? Because we didn't all just come up with this on our own. There were people that were impactful. So outside of a professor, something that someone right now listening can reach out to who's not a member of our fire department, which Crystal Woodcock, we're going to get to you here in just a second. Steve, I know you know that name.
Yes.
Who is it that's influential to you outside of the norm that our listeners or somebody who's watching this at a later date, which, by the way, I get a lot of people who watch these shows and send us messages later on. Who would you say, this is somebody that's helped me through these difficult times?
You want me to go first?
Sure.
No, go ahead. Please.
Oh, go ahead. I went first last time.
Trinity, to be honest with you, it was multiple people. I mean, again, I've never shied away from my faith and of course my family, my friends, my wife, but it was multiple people, to be honest with you. It was several people who had gone through some type of cancer that reached out to me. Again, Johnny Rios, he was in that storm, and I would reach out to him often, and he would reach out to me often. I had another high school friend of mine who would send me messages, and when I got my first set of scans that I was cancer free, months later he passed away from his battle. I really leaned on those. I gravitated to those who were in that storm or had been in that storm, because those are the ones that understood. So when they told me, or when they gave me a response to questions, it was very natural, organic, and sincere. It was hard for me to listen to people who had not gone through it to say, Willie, you're a strong guy, you're gonna be okay. It was good to hear it, don't get me wrong, but I needed to hear it from people who had gone through that storm to say, you're gonna be okay.
Yeah, I didn't have anyone external that wasn't family. My experience, I don't know, maybe was a little different. There was a short time between diagnosis and the surgery where I was just freaking out and doing some research and didn't get around to talking to a whole lot of people. And then I had the surgery, and then I was down almost until the last month before I went back to work, where I made a dramatic increase in health. But I recalled my father's experience. He died at age 53 of liver cancer. And that was back in 94. So that showed me a way that it could go if you do certain things. And with that technology from many decades ago, and that reminded me that, okay, well, there's been a lot of medical advances now. We have good insurance, thankfully, and a selection of great doctors. So by looking at, I'd say, an alternative case where the outcome wasn't, well, there had been some choices that could have been made better, given the resources they had at the time. That informed me of the mindset I had to have going forward. And I'm glad it did at that point, because that sort of built my foundation to handle what was coming, unbeknownst to me at the time.
Yeah. Well, Audrey, I know, you being the wife of course, myself, somebody who's gone through this in a support system. Now we've got Stephanie back. I'm going to have her join us. Right before she comes on, I'm going to share this with you. Crystal says, when my late husband, SAFD Lieutenant Todd Woody Woodcock, was diagnosed, our way of thinking changed drastically. We had to focus on the lessons within our storm rather than our struggles. I feel like that way of thinking helped me grieve in a healthy way and helped me lead our daughter through grief as well. Cancer stinks, and Audrey is right. It's ugly, but there was a lot of beauty through it too. Because we made the conscious decision to focus on the good and not on the bad. God bless you. Yeah, man. I'll tell you what, it is a difficult thing to focus on the good and the bad, but you really don't have a choice. And even with those that have lost their lives shortly after being diagnosed, Audrey, we were just talking about this before the show. Let's see. We were just talking about this before the show, when not all of us get that opportunity, and it can be short-lived. And there was an officer. I know that you wanted to talk about, what it was that we remembered about this particular incident where an officer went in, and it was only about 3 weeks where from diagnosis to turning around, and he never left when he went in. And I know that for us, it was difficult. I didn't talk to his wife, and I don't want to share that information. But the thing that stuck with him was his mindset through that whole experience. The man went in, never left, but yet in his hospital bed, he was reminding people about how life short is and how you need to laugh, you need to smile, and you need to enjoy life, because it really is short. And that really was a big thing for us. And again, I want to respect their privacy. I don't want to mention their name or but how important was that for us?
It's huge. It's huge. It always is. But for everyone, smiling through the pain, and sometimes just smiling and just staying focused. Honey, we were sitting outside the gym this morning, and you sat there, and we've got a lot of things that we've got to do. And you sat there and you looked out the window and you said, I'm grateful that I can go to the gym today. I'm grateful that I'm not in a hospital bed. I'm here. I can work out. It's a beautiful day. I've got my wife and my kids. I'm grateful. And you get on that role of everything that we're grateful for. And so it helps you. It helps me.
Yeah, it's huge. Mindset's important. So we got Stephanie back. Let's see if we can join her. All right, Stephanie, you there?
Oh, come on, Stephanie. It's you guys.
Hey, Stephanie, can you hear us?
Hear me?
I kind of can, but it's a little weak. I want to talk to you so badly. Try to speak up and let's see if we can get you.
Hey guys.
All right, there we go. Hey, Stephanie, I know it's a little choppy, but that's okay. We can hear your voice. You've heard the show to this point. You and Jerry were
Sorry.
It's okay. You and Jerry were very inspirational to me. I'm sure that these guys know of you and Jerry and your journey with cancer. What can you share with us based on what you've heard to this point? I don't know if we're going to be able to get her. Can you hear her, Audrey?
I can't hear her.
I'm sorry, Stephanie.
I can't hear.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
We may have to get back on another show, have her again.
Yeah, I think so. Let me see if I remove the guys, let me see if we can hear from Stephanie. Stephanie, how about now? No.
Can you hear me?
I can.
So sorry about that.
That's okay. Go ahead. We can hear you now. Hey, based on what you've heard to this point, can you share or comment on some things, in your experiences, with you and Jerry as you went through your journey and what you felt based off of what we've talked about to this point?
I agree 100% with both Willie, Steve, Audrey as a supporting wife. I will say that from the moment Jerry was diagnosed in July of 2017, like both of y'all, all of y'all have shared, it took a little bit to wrap our minds around it, him individually, and then me as his wife, and then our kids. But within a few days, we said, we're going to attack this head on. He said, we are going to look at cancer. Like he said, I am going to control cancer and dictate what it does to our family. Cancer will not control my life or our family. And he chose the positive approach. He looked at this, he called it his opportunity. He called cancer his opportunity, and meaning that like his opportunity to show others how to live life to the fullest, no matter what is going on in your life. His opportunity to make things right in every aspect. We always looked at cancer as we're going to beat this together. And he truly was positive every moment of the journey, in spite of the sickness through chemo that you guys all shared. That was not pleasant. But he looked at it like, I'm going to have chemo, and then we are going to live every bit of life for the rest of that month. When his feet hit the ground every morning, he would say, thank you, God, for another day of life. I am grateful for the breath that I breathe, for my wife, my kids. And that's truly how he approached it. And that's what we did together as a family. And every month around his chemo, we would plan a family adventure, a trip. He rode his motorcycle 3 days after chemo. He did 7 states in 7 days, and vacations with our kids. He was nonstop positive no matter what.
You know what I love about this, and I know Willie and Steve will be able to comment on that here in a little bit, but what I love is that how do you get control when you don't feel like you're in control, right? Because we're going to show a picture of Jerry, and one of the things I absolutely love about this dude is, again, he didn't just go through cancer. This dude went through a lot of different experiences, and one in particular I won't go into, but I will just tell you, this was a challenge in itself, and I know because he shared it with us through the academy. The thing that I thought is so awesome, and it confirmed this for me, was, I can't control what ends up happening in the end. Like, I mean, one of the things about cancer is you can eat. Willie, he'll show us his biceps here in a second. Willie eats really well. He takes all the proteins, all the different pills. And he really takes care of himself when it comes to working out. Steve might show us his abs here in a minute. I don't know, but I know that Willie, he's big on the eating part. And, people will say, well, there's no proof that sugars will have enough positive or negative effect. I mean, there are scientists say this, doctors say that. But in this world of, like Willie put it, of Google diagnosis and everything, when I talked to Willie, he was like, you know what the cool part is that it at least gives you a feeling that you're doing something. And that was a part of what I loved was I need some sort of feeling I've got something to do with this. Like as being a first responder, I can train for critical situations, you know. As a father, I can listen to my dad. I can do all of that. But in the end, cancer's different because it's inside of you and you don't really know for sure. So any sense of control that I can possibly have was so valuable to me. And the thing that I settled on was I'm going to make sure that in the day that I'm not in a hospital where I can't get out of bed, I'm going to do and enjoy as much as I can because I'm not in that bed. And then ultimately, if I'm in that bed, what can I do even with my last breath? It sounds deep, but this is a deep subject. What can I do with my last breath to help someone? What can I do in my last breath to show love? And that became my focus. So now, regardless of the next scan, not to say that that isn't stressful, fear, anxiety, and this last one's extremely difficult for me. You know, here's an example of Willie and Steve and Stephanie. I know, you know, this is where, you know, right before they give you this contrast, you got to go into this machine. I think Willie shared a picture with us of this machine in case you don't know what it is. You know, you get taken into that machine and you know, Willie's was a little bit different than mine, and he can probably touch on this in a second for those that don't know. But you know, when you're getting that contrast and when you're going in and they're giving you that scan, you've got another week before they give you the results. Man, you want to talk about, you know, some difficult times. But the thing I kept practicing was, what can I do in this day? What can I do in this moment to make sure that I live? Again, we can't control when we die. Jerry, I remember, dude, the guy was skydiving. We have a picture of this stuff. I mean, the thing that I got from Jerry, Stephanie, tell me if I'm wrong, right or wrong. And it's okay if I am wrong. It is what it is. But the thing I got from Jerry was he wasn't scrambling to try to be something so different than what he already was. It just was intensified. It was just, I'm not going to rush out and just, I mean, everybody has a little bit of a bucket list, but you never got that feeling from him that he was like, oh my God, I'm scrambling to do that. He seemed like he still had that zest and that whole thing. He just said, hey man, now I'm going to get a little more intense with it. Are you there, Stephanie?
I sure am.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
You are absolutely right. He basically lived to put a smile on somebody's face. He never looked at the fact that there might be a point where he wouldn't make it through this. And I think that is so important because we were on board with that too. We fought all the way with him. And I think the most important thing is we kept the positivity together as a family. We stuck together at that moment of just living every day to enjoy the moment. And that's what he still instills in us today, is that living for every moment, being grateful, being appreciative for the gift of life. And so that's what I would truly would have to say, that we've carried on the way that we live our life because of how he lived his. And he just incredible. So I don't know if there's any specific that you would like me to touch on with all of his experiences. I would be more than happy to.
Yeah, Stephanie, real quickly, because I know that we're having a little bit of a connection issue. Can you share something to those
Yes.
that are going through a diagnosis? You know, some people are either they're going to find out today or they're going to find out shortly after today. There could be somebody who has a loved one or ultimately scan to scan? I mean, in the end, what can you share with somebody who's tuning in that from your experiences would be some standout points?
So I will say that you never expect this to happen to you. And I don't mean to say that in any way, but we were like, this wasn't supposed to happen to him. It wasn't supposed to happen to us. And so when you're hit with that moment, we had to make a decision on how we were going to fight this head on. And we didn't look at the statistics of it. They gave Jerry, basically the oncologist, 4 days after we found out that he had cancer, basically said, it is my job to keep you comfortable, not even to live life, but to keep comfortable for maybe 6 months.
Wow.
And
wow.
we did not take that. We did not at all. Jerry said, I am not a statistic. I am not a number. I am not the 5 to 10%. I am an individual, and you are not in control. God's in control of how my life goes. And we didn't accept the diagnosis of the percentage. And we just lived life. I think that is the thing that I would like to share the most, is not to let it control your being, and let the negativity of what that cancer is control you. Because right after his port was inserted, he was up on the roof replacing our chimney. 7 days after his treatment, he was on the road on his motorcycle by himself, and like, okay, I'm going to visit some family. I said, great. I think supporting what your loved one is going through cancer, supporting them and not controlling them at all. Like, I could have been, what are you doing? You're going to go on a motorcycle by yourself. You were just throwing up last night. No, I'm like, whatever you need to do, you do that. And it was so freeing for him and what he needed to experience. And it's our job to support and love them. And I guess I'm just so passionate about that to this moment. Like, don't let cancer control you. And I am so much, even after the fact, I live life better because of Jerry. He's with me every single day because he's inspired, and he motivates me, and he motivates our kids, that he lives in us because he didn't let it control us.
What a special gift. What a gift, Stephanie. I know. I'm trust me, I was about to put my head back just so that the tears wouldn't fall down. But you know what? On that note, did Jerry, like Willie and Steve, and I want to bring you guys back on. I'm afraid the connection will get a little bad, but I'm going to bring you back on. There are those nights where it's okay to just cry, man. It's those nights where it's okay to feel. Did you find yourself every once in a while just like, in those moments going, it's okay. I'll hold my wife and I'll cry sometimes because it's just not normal, man. It's not normal to have to face this stuff. I don't know, Steve, Willie, if you had those moments where you felt like, I got to let this go.
Yeah.
Let it go and then come back and bounce back.
I recall, I think 2 weeks after the diagnosis, my wife and I were getting ready to head out the door to one of my appointments, and I hugged her and I said, I wish this wasn't happening. And that was like the first moment that it sunk in. And then I think it was that same week we found out that she was pregnant. So that turned my whole head around. But you're going to have the ups and downs. You can't have the ups without the downs.
Yeah, without a doubt, it's a roller coaster ride. I think for me, it was a Friday, and I was going to start chemo and radiation on a Monday, and I was out training, and I remember I came home, and Ruby sat me down, and she said, "Hey, I got a phone call from your oncologist, and your cancer's spreading." At first, it was on the right side of my neck and in my jaw and in my throat, and it's spreading now to the left side of your neck. And I think at that moment, that was my moment of a breakdown. It was the unknown, right? I mean, we are all Steve and Trini, and we're all first responders. We're there for people, and we don't think we're Superman, but we at times need to be, because as you mentioned, Trini, at the beginning of the show, we're seeing the worst out there. We're seeing people lose their loved ones, horrible child abuse cases, robberies, rapes. I mean, we see the horrible things in life, the things that we don't wish on anyone, and they're burned in our memories. And then we go home, and then we have to deal with our own issues. And then the issue of cancer, especially when you hear that stage, then you start to ask yourself, am I going to get through this? And when I heard that it was spreading, I think that was my moment, Trini, of breaking down and saying, asking that question over again, why me? But come Monday, I did what we do, right? You strap that gun to your hip and you put that vest on and you run into that fire, Steve. And that's the way I handled the chemo and radiation. I said, okay, now it's game time. But like Steve said, it's a roller coaster. There's times where you're strong and you're, hey, I got this. And there's times where you're texting Trini, hey, brother, this is what's going on. And Trini, I remember one of the times you called me, I was in the parking lot of school. And I remember you said, hey, do you have a minute? I need to talk. And I actually had a minute to get into class. And it didn't matter to me. You said, hey, do you have a minute to talk? I said, absolutely. Yeah. And you and I talked for probably 30, 40 minutes.
It's a good while.
Yeah. And I was late to class and I didn't care. So during that roller coaster, you need people like you and Steve and others to lean on, just to hear that you're not the only one that's feeling the way you feel, but also to get that lift and support, emotional support and mental support that you need to get through that.
I think it's important to realize that as first responders, we're so used to having answers for everyone. And sometimes we don't work as much on having answers for ourselves.
Right.
And so when it comes time, I've heard people say, of course, and we're going to let Stephanie and my beautiful wife, Audrey, get a last opportunity to be able to speak here in a second. But so many times you hear people say, hey, man, just give me a call. If you need me, give me a call. But as first responders, a lot of times, again, it's ingrained in us to provide for people. And we're just not used to letting people provide for us. So one thing that Sergeant Brasena on our department and Russ Van Geffen, both of them helped me out with some critical words. Not to say that there weren't people that helped me out through this whole journey, because there were, Dean White, a bunch of people. But ultimately, Sergeant Brasena, he told me, he goes, hey, man, you've been your brother's keeper for so long. It's time to let your brother keep you. And I was like, all right, man. That allowed me to let that wall down. And then Russ said, hey, man, you got to realize that, I know that you're trying to be strong for everyone, and you're trying to be positive. You're trying to, help everybody. Realize that don't worry about you, but you need to understand something, man. People are going to sit there. Let's just say, he goes, man, because this is real talk. He's like, let's just say it happens. You die. Because at the time, very real possibility. And he's like, let's just say it happens. Dude, you're going to be, people are going to show up and they're going to go, man, I wish I could have done something. I wish there was something I could have done. Because, dude, you're keeping people from allowing them to feel good about themselves, to show you how much they care about you. Because, dude, let them give. If you want to turn this about giving to people, give them the opportunity while you're alive to allow them to show you how much they care about you. There you go. First responders mentality allowed me to drop that wall, or to drop what I was doing and what I'm so accustomed to doing, and to allow that help to come through. And that, to me, I think is an important thing to remember, is let people help you. Call people up. And Willie, Steve, you think I'm BSing, man. I hope you don't go to sleep early, because I'm about to interrupt your sleep at times. Because there are times that I'm sitting there and, dude, I'm just laying in bed with my eyes just, you let your mind get to you sometimes. So I think it's important to have that.
Yep. I agree. And you know, what's also important, Trini, is because of our personality as first responders, you know, we don't like going to the doctor's office. You know, we don't like getting checked up. And I tell people, you know, wouldn't you rather know what you're fighting in front of you, right? I would prefer the light to be bright and know exactly where my target is than for me to be in the dark and swing, trying to hit whatever is in front of me. So I tell people, you know, people are worried about getting a checkup, an exam. You know, I don't want to know. Yes, you do want to know, because then now we know what is in front of you and we know how to address it. I was very persistent. And a lot of people, when I talk to a men's group, they're like, wow, if the doctor told me you're okay, here's some antibiotics, I would have said, Roger that, I'm okay, give me a refill, you know. But I was persistent and pushing and pushing and pushing and wanting that biopsy to find out what is causing the symptom. And that's another issue, right, Trini? We've talked about this, is that society in itself, you know, we always focus on symptoms and issues. You know, you have a cough, what do? You go to Walgreens, you buy cough medicine. Well, what does that do? It just suppresses the symptom. It just suppresses the cough, but it doesn't look into deep in what's causing that cough. And so I tell people, you know, it's important for us to biopsy the issues that we have in our lives, whether it's your marriage, whether it's your business, your career, whatever it is. If something's going wrong, you want to know the truth of what's happening. So I always encourage men, especially that those are stubborn men, go get checked. When you feel something, go get checked. If it's nothing, great. If it's something, let's find out how we fix it.
I think that's important. And you hear these messages come across through commercials and things like that. It's scary. A lot of people don't want to face that. But like you said, how many stories have you heard where it's like, hey, look, we're able to catch this in time that we can at least do something about this. And but I completely completely relate to those that are fearful, that say, I don't want to. And I've noticed it comes with from the older generation. They'd rather not go. Younger generation, we get the PSA messages, we get those things. It's a little easier for us to go, but still, it's scary. So, hey, real quickly, Stephanie, I'm gonna remove everybody else so we can get your stream on there. Hey, Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing, you know, your experiences with you and Jerry, and through your journey, you know, with cancer. And I know, again, we're having, you know, issues with her, but thank you so much. All right, and let's bring Willie and Steve back. Audrey, we'll bring you back on for a final message. You got any message for anyone out there?
Yes, I want to say that if you are a spouse and your loved one is on this difficult journey, I think it's important that you know that it is okay to cry with your spouse. I tried not to cry around my husband. I cried all the time. I just tried not to cry around him because I didn't want to bring his mood down. I didn't want to stress him out at all. I didn't want him to take his focus off of his fight and be worried about me. And that's not necessarily what needs to be done. It gave him an opportunity. When I break down with him, it gives him an opportunity to hold me, to love me, and to let me know together we can get through this. Regardless of what the outcome is, we can get through this together. That is a picture that I wrote when we got diagnosed in January of 2016. I wrote that on his mirror in the morning, so that when he got up, he could see that first thing in the morning. I wanted him to have that mindset of, you are curable. This is treatable. And so if you have, I wrote that too, not the best writing, but I wrote it, it's treatable. Together, keeping that positivity. And if you have a bad day and you need someone to cry to, I could turn to my husband. And I tried to hold that back for many months until finally I couldn't. And he said, there's no need to. I want to be here for you. So I would suggest that if you feel that, let it out, because that gives them the opportunity to help you.
Well, and I'll comment on that. So we talk about mindset. We're talking about, staying positive. At the same time, what happened with me in that situation was she was being so strong that, for me, that, I started thinking, okay, well, is it just me? Am I maybe being too weak? Am I maybe not, but communication's key in everything. And when I finally expressed it to her, like, hey, look, this is what I'm feeling. You don't know it, but last night, I couldn't sleep because of all these thoughts that were going through my mind. And it finally got to a point where I opened up and I talked to her about that. And she goes, the reason that I'm not expressing as much as you see is because I do it off to the side. I don't want to make you
worry,
bring you down. I don't want to make you worry about us. And I go, honey, here's what you got to remember. And like I did with my daughter, because she's the same way as my wife. And when I finally opened up to them and told them that, I said, I need you to cry now. Like, I don't want you to lose it when I'm in the hospital room in that bed. And then you let all these emotions, man, cry now. Tell me about your insecurities now. Tell me about your fears, your concerns. Tell me if you're worried that I'm not going to be here. What am I going to do? That's all natural. Give me an opportunity right now to hold you and to be there for you, because that's what I want. I want to be there for you guys. One day you're going to be there for me. That's cool. Regardless of the situation, it doesn't have to be cancer related. Just one day you're going to be there for me. That's the way we all hope it. And when that happened, it allowed things to flow easier. So I love what you're saying, Audrey. And that was some personal stuff that you might not understand it, until you're there. And so thank you so much, honey, for your support. And I truly appreciate you being on that show with me, because it takes a lot to be able to open up in that way. So thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Yeah. So let's see here. I hate removing her. But hey, so Steve, Willie, we got you back. All right, there we go. Hey, so Steve, Willie, we're approaching our time. Is there anything that you want to share with people who are listening? Some final words that you want to be able to share with them?
Yes. What I tell everyone that I meet that is worried about cancer or medical problems in general is that all the pain in your body should be explainable. If you're old, you're going to have back pain probably. If you're athletic while you're young, you're going to have knee pain, shoulder pain, abdominal pain. Okay, well, why do you have abdominal pain? Maybe it was indigestion. For 3 months? No. It has to be explainable. And just because your first doctor just throws antacids at you and says you're fine and it doesn't get better, get a second opinion, get a third opinion, keep going until someone says your pain is caused by this and we're going to do this to fix it. They tried to blow me off because of my age at first with my cancer. But like Willie said, persistence is key. We just kept on going, kept on doing the test. And that's how we caught it while there was still a good surgical solution.
Steve, Willie, on that note, extremely important. We know our bodies. Continue to get another opinion. Don't take that chance. But in the end, how did you guys feel about going to the doctor's office with somebody there? Because it was extremely important that I took my wife with me. If you're not married, I'm telling you right now, man, take somebody with you to these doctor's appointments. You need somebody to help you process things. You need somebody to help you remember the details. It is not normal to hear some of the things that you hear in these appointments, and somebody needs to be there to be able to help you to recount or to pay attention to those finer details. What are your opinions on going to the doctor by yourself or with someone?
Well, Trini, we had that conversation in the last podcast we did together, because the doctors kept telling me, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine. When my appointment was at 4:30 on a Friday, I went by myself. I worked all day, and I said, I'll just leave work a little early. I'll swing by there. I'm sure they're probably gonna give me a different type of antibiotic. And so I went by myself, and I, as I mentioned before, I don't recommend that at all, because you're right. After they said you have cancer, and that this type of cancer, you're going to need chemo and radiation, almost everything after that was a muffled sound. I remember when I got home and told Ruby, she was asking all these questions. And I said, I don't remember. I don't know. Look, all I heard is I have cancer, and it's pretty serious. So you're right, Trini. After that, I never, ever, ever went to an appointment, because even with someone, with Ruby there were times where she would say, remember, the doctor said this. And I would say, I didn't hear that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember him saying that, Yep. And so you're right. You need someone there at all times. And let me tell you something, for those who are listening that are here, maybe they don't have family here. If you need someone to go with, reach out to me. I'm all over social media. Send me a private message. I'm more than happy to pick you up and sit with you, and take notes for you, because it's that important that
Absolutely,
that you need somebody there for that support.
And that extends to me also, because I know that with myself and Audrey, there was a time when we left the doctor's office. This wasn't even after a initial diagnosis. This was just like, how are we going to move forward meeting. And we got downstairs. I'm telling you, before we even got off the elevator, I was like, well, he said this, right? And she's like, I didn't hear that. I'm like, no, he said this. And she goes, well, I'm not sure. But here was the cool part about this. I knew that this meeting was going to be so important, because I was going to MD Anderson and then coming here to a doctor in the medical center. And we asked for permission. Can we record this? It's very important that we have the details to this. Now, I don't know if all doctors will allow that. There's a big old, I'm sure there's a part of doctors that are like, hey, hold on. But we asked, we got permission. And I'm telling you, man, before we even hit the bottom floor, we were already like recalling things differently. And how important is that? Because you can't always get a hold of those doctors again. They see so many patients. I think it's extremely important to recognize if a doctor allows you to, cool, record them all. But if not, at least on those very important ones, I think it's important to ask that. And ultimately, you've got to take charge of your own health. MD Anderson's a world-renowned cancer center, the cutting edge when it comes to cancer research. But I'm going to tell you right now, and I hope if anyone works with MD Anderson or anything like that, I am not trying to be offensive or trying to take away from anything that they do there. But there are so many people that go there. It's such a huge place. We have experienced personally kind of being lost in the shuffle of things. They were about to give me a medicine that I can't take because I have one kidney. And my wife caught it. She brought it up. Young girl, great intentions, no bad intentions, but she just didn't pay attention to the paperwork. And when my wife brought it up, she goes, no, he's fine. And my wife goes, are you sure? Because what I understand, thankfully she had a biology degree and she was able to recognize some of the terms and things like that. This lady left the room, came back and said, you're right. This wouldn't have been good. And it's important to pay attention. Don't just leave it in their hands. Great intentions. I'll tell you what, doctors, nurses, teachers, y'all got a ton of respect from me. So nothing against nurses and doctors. It's just MD Anderson. They're seeing so many people affected by cancer. It's important to take charge of your own health. My wife really helped me with that. Guys, what do you say in your experiences?
I was extremely lucky. My wife is RN, and she was on all that stuff at the doctor's appointments. She asked most of the questions, and I was just sitting there like, I have cancer. I don't know what's going on. And we'd get home, and then I'd turn around and say, what just happened? Because I couldn't concentrate and she would tell me, and she could break it down. But yeah, not going alone is key. You need to have someone there also.
Yeah, Trini, and like the doctor who kept telling me you're fine, right, and giving me antibiotics. Doctors are like, they're human, right? So we are, as I mentioned earlier, we are all who we are based on our experiences, right? From birth to how you were raised, to what you were taught, your education, your experiences, whether you're law enforcement, a doctor, lawyer, whatever. So doctors become who they are as a physician based on their experiences and what they read.
Yep, good
right?
point.
So again, we're all different, and so it's unfortunate that, and again, it's not intentional, but they're so busy. It's almost like reading a menu. You have this symptom, you have this symptom. Okay, over here it says you probably have this, and over here it says give you this. You know your body more than anyone. So whether it's your spouse or yourself, and to be aggressive because it's your body, and they're human, they make mistakes, and it's unfortunate that because they're physicians, sometimes they make life-threatening mistakes. So I agree with everything that you're saying. Both of y'all, Steve and Trini, take your loved one, record it if you can, and ask those tough questions. And when you don't like the answer, you push back because it's your body and it's your life.
Look, one thing I learned was medicine is a practice. They're practicing medicine. They don't have it foolproof. And so it's important to remember they're just practicing medicine. And so you have to take that into consideration. And one thing that helped me was I went with my heart. I had a decision to make. MD Anderson, a doctor there, was giving me one way of proceeding, and then there was another doctor here. And in the end, after considering everything, it was very important that if neither one of those worked out, what was I going to feel okay with if it didn't work out? Because it was a gamble. If they tried radiation and it didn't work, I'm done. There was no way they could do anything else because it would have already done so much damage to my lungs. Anything they would have tried would have not been, I would have died because there was nothing else it would have been just too much damage. So I remember thinking that, and I remember thinking, what is my heart going to tell me if I'm laying there in that bed? I mean, it's all done and it just is what it is. Am I going to go, oh man, I felt so good with this guy and I didn't go with him? One of the factors I considered was, what's my heart telling me? What's my gut telling me? And at MD Anderson with that one doctor, I didn't feel as much that I was, as an individual, being cared for as much as the doctor here. And if it wouldn't have gone wrong with either one, I remember thinking, man, if it's that one doctor there, I'm going to go, oh man, I never felt like this dude really had me in his mind, like in my visit with him, like, okay, you're the only one that matters. There was a president, I can't remember who it was. I don't know if it was Clinton or Reagan. It was one of them that somebody said multiple people said, every time I was with him, guy made me feel like I was the only one in the room. When I was with this doctor here, he made me feel like we're going to do everything we can. We're going to research this thing. We're going to make this, and I was like, dude, I just felt like that guy was coming to the plate trying to hit a home run. And the other one was like, okay with a single. And I didn't really get to that. I didn't really jive with that. Nothing again against doctors at MD Anderson. I'm not categorizing them all. It was just this one experience that I had. And that's what I went with. And I felt good. I felt good with my decision. It worked out. But if it wouldn't have, I had to consider that and go, if it doesn't, at least I'm going to feel better that I went to the plate and tried to hit with this dude as opposed to the other one.
All right.
So, Steve, any final words for us?
I really appreciate this opportunity to come and talk to your audience about my experience. This was good for me. The first time that I've talked publicly about what I went through. And if I can help anyone with answers or, what to expect, or if you just want to look at me and look at that guy, he made it, he's still doing it. Look me up. Trini has my email. He'll give that out. I don't mind.
Yeah, we'll put that in the details. That's extremely important, Steve, especially since this is your first time opening up and you're willing to extend that invitation to people. I know what I shared with you in our conversation, and I think it's a great resource. This man's been through a lot. He's got the right personality, the right mindset, and he is a keeper of the peace. Even as a fireman, these dudes go through a lot, and I really do appreciate you guys, so much. Thank you so much for what you do, Stephen. Thank you so much for joining us today.
All right. Thank you, Trini.
All right, brother. All right. We're going to get some final words. Stephanie joined us back on. Stephanie, any final sign-offs?
I want to say I appreciate being a part of this to just share the positivity of Jer in all things and through all things. Another thing that I wanted to share is we have a lot of journals that we are able to look back on. He shared them mainly to share his steps through his journey for him. But every trip he went on, he journaled every thought he had, whether it was in the middle of the night or after we talked or the kids talked with him, he wrote down. So we have these journals also to reflect on. And I would say that's still a big part for us that maybe might mean something to someone out there to just get their thoughts down. I was thinking about the things that I might have left out that are so special, but that just keep fighting the fight no matter where you're at, whether you're just finding out, fight it together as a family, no matter what. And your faith in God, your journey for each step of the way is carry on. It really does carry on a legacy no matter what. So I just appreciate all of you guys, and I appreciate the Trini family. And again, thank you for having me on. I hope this helps somebody for Jerry.
Oh yeah, man. And the way he lived his life is an awesome gift for the rest of us to learn from and to look at and to smile. Keep posting those pictures. It's like Michelle Pickney with the Dale Pickney. We lost it as a first responder also in our police circuit. She posts all these pictures, and man, I absolutely love it. Please keep posting those pictures. Thank you so much for that journal advice. My wife did something similar, and I think it's a neat gift, and I'll let her just comment real quickly on what it is. And I think it's a great idea, guys, whether it's cancer or not. Check this out. All right. Thank you, Stephanie, so much. Audrey, you want to share with them what it is you got for me?
Yes, I just got my husband it's called Storyworth. And what you do is over the course of a year, the company will send him a question and he responds to it. He's got a week or so to respond to it. And at the end of the year, they compile a book and they present it to you at the end of the year, and you can buy as many copies as you want. But I thought it was a good idea so that the children can ask questions that you wouldn't normally ask, and read that. I think it would be something interesting for the whole family. So I'm enjoying. I can't wait to see it when it's finalized.
Another thing to do, eh?
I know.
That's all right though. I'll make it happen. But I'm not going to let you see. I'm glad that you sent that message to him saying, hey, I don't want to see this till it's over, because I might have to pay a price. I'm a very genuine person. You may have messed up. I don't know. But I love you. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm giving you the boot. See ya, Felicia. All right. So Hey, Willie, any final words, man, that you can leave? Oh, here we go. Hey, Frank, what's going on, brother? Wow, Trini, your work here doesn't go unnoticed. Keep up the great things you do and how you touch people. I can't wait to see you on the softball field. Love you, my brother. I'd like to see you more in the stands, not against you, Frank. I'd rather see you in the stands. Share a drink. Appreciate your support, brother. Hey, so Willie, what do you got, man?
Well, I tell you what, I mean, I think there's so many great, wonderful things that were said tonight that I think I would encourage someone today, if they didn't watch the whole thing, to go back and listen. I think that if you have to summarize everything that was said, is that just don't give up. Don't take no for an answer, and push and lean on family and friends. Hey, Trini, I'll tell you this. I'm very humbled tonight to see the amount of support that logged in tonight. There's some people that were with me during the storm, like as I mentioned earlier, Javier Arguello and Jeremy Brosh and Rob Ramos, and then there's some people who are supportive now, like Spence and Stacy Alderete and Danny Veith and so many other people that are in my life now that I don't think would have been otherwise, because the things that we experience, right, it kind of pushes us in a different direction. But we have a choice of which direction it takes us. And I think that the decisions I've made and the trajectory it's taken me in my life has been a blessing. And I've had so many more new friends that I'm able to lean on during my weak moments. So again, I please share my email address, and I meant it, and I'm sincere about it, that if anyone's going through something and they want to talk about it, if they need a ride, part of my foundation is supporting people that are going through this storm. We were blessed, Trini, that we had a great job with great insurance to help us be able to pay to survive. And it saddens me, and this is a whole different topic, right? It saddens me that because people don't have insurance or can't afford to receive this treatment, die. It really does sadden me. So my foundation is there to help in any way we can, whether it's paying a mortgage, whether it's paying a car payment, a light bill, groceries, transportation. That's what I've made this, what I say, difficult situation, how I turned it bad into trying to find good in it. And that's giving people back, giving back to the people who are going through what you and I went through and who weren't as blessed with family, friends, and financial support to get through it.
I'll tell you what, Willie, we're going to talk here in a second, but Stacy says, I cannot begin to tell you the blessing he has been. That's awesome, man. What a neat part of your legacy, you know, and that to me is when you find something bigger than yourself. And I think that's very important when you're diagnosed, at least in my experience. I'm not going to speak for everyone, but in my experience, if you can find something bigger than yourself that allows you to get up and keep pushing and to keep fighting, you know, and we think about our kids. Yes. We think about our wives. Yes. But my kids don't do their chores all the time. So there are times that I'm like, get out of my face, man. You gotta, you know, I raised you. You're 20 years old, man. Do something about this. And we have fun, you know, but I mean, I joke, but I think that the Willie Ng Family Foundation, Shields for Kids, these things put others in front of ourselves, and it just gives you a higher purpose, and it gives you something that even if your time comes early, you feel good about providing. You feel good about, you know, we're givers. And I am extremely happy to be able to have a foundation like Shields for Kids. You have Willie Ng Family Foundation. I think it's so important to have that, because every once in a while, that's what I really rely on is those that still need me, and to continue to try to continue to provide that value as I did in my service to my country, my service to my community, my service to Biotex, our crime scene cleaning company. This isn't a pitch. I can do that anytime I want. I am continuing my service to my community with my wife through biotechs. And now I get to turn around with a podcast and help people. And so I love what First Responder stand for. And we're going through a difficult time right now, but the people who are in it for the right reason, which are 99.99999%, are in this for the right reason. And you're getting an example of those first responders right now. So I absolutely love your message, Willie. We're going to include your, and girls, if you don't mind, go ahead and make sure you put the ways of contacting Steve, the ways of contacting Willie on this, and also myself on the comments, please, comment section. And I want to be able to highlight Steve's photo. We got Steve Abbott. Oh, yeah. So we got Steve on here. Again, I'm not getting into the message, but the guy was extremely valiant when in the weeks that from the time he found out to the time that he passed. This is one of the things he wrote on a notepad for him and his wife to share to his wife. Always, always, always smile and be positive. Life is too short to be mad at anything. That's a very, very impactful for me. So, hey, Willie, thank you so much for joining us, brother. I really appreciate you. I know we're going to have many more conversations to come. And ultimately, I got an idea that I think that we can all create something that's really going to help, especially those that are going through this alone. Because I'm finding out that that's more than I realized was actually out there, so I think we're going to do some great things in that area. So Willie, thank you again for joining us, brother.
Absolutely, brother. Gotta be here.
Thank you, man. Hey, I think that one of the things is to remember that you are more powerful than cancer. You are more powerful than cancer by the way you live. That's important to remember. It's not the easiest thing to remember, especially after an initial diagnosis, but I think it is very important to remember that cancer, even if it gets you, because trust me, this is my personal experiences. This is why I started this podcast. I have a personal brand, Trini Trinidad, that's coming out soon. And the thing that I'm doing with Trini Trinidad is I'm turning my struggles into a gift for others through business, through cancer, and through my service. And the thing that I think about is, let's say cancer gets me. It is what it is, man. Cancer gets me. Could have been a bullet, could have been a fire. It could have been a multitude of things. But in the end, it's going to be how I live my life that's going to be my defining factor, man. It's not going to be how I die. And we hear it, but it intensifies when you get diagnosed. And so for those that are listening with the diagnosis, it's how you live, man. It's from the point that you find out, which it's okay to not be okay. But once you regroup, once you get your composure, once you lean on people, it's going to be how you live. And if Steve can do this in weeks, if other people can do this in days, and I've seen it happen, this is my personal opinion. There's no excuse for me. Since 2016, I've been blessed with the opportunity to do whatever I want to do and have that, that ability to be able to live with intensity. And when I see people who live with intensity days after finding out they have a diagnosis and they pass, the days or weeks, months, it's really embedded in me now. It's how you live your life that really matters after you get a diagnosis, not what gets you in the end. So take that with you. Remember that you can make cancer a gift. The way you look at things, if you change it, the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And this is such an important podcast for me. I benefited. It's selfish to a degree because this helps me. I want to help people, but it helps me. And I'm so happy that you shared tonight with me. 2 hours and 25 minutes. And we got people still with us from the very beginning. And that makes us feel so special. You have given us meaning and purpose with tonight. And I thank you for that. I'm Trini Trinidad. You can look me up on keepersofthepeace.com, TriniTrinidad.com. I'm out there. I don't have a ton of like social media stuff, but that's what I got. Check it out for more. We got a lot of great things. Police Softball Podcast, Keepers of the Peace Podcast, Trini Trinidad, Talking with Trini. It's going to be coming up soon. Please tune in. Go to Facebook. Go to YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. It's easy. Once you do that, oh, here we go. I'm not very searchable right now, so I'm not that famous, but you can type in my name. You can go to the filter. You can go to the channel. You can hit the vacation photo my wife took. I was after a margarita. You can hit the subscribe button. You can hit that notification bell. You go to the top bell, you hit all, and you'll be notified of everything to come. You got a chance to win this Chris Vector. Check this out. It's a cool gun. Never been fired. It's a lot of fun. I'm upset that I never got to fire it, but that's all right. I'm going to be giving that away. Just go to the YouTube channel, subscribe, share it with at least 10 friends, and you'll be registered to win that thing. Don't forget about our conference, International Keepers of the Peace Conference, coming in April 12th through the 14th. I guarantee even if you're a first responder and you show up, I guarantee you when you walk in, you won't walk out the same way that you did when you walked in. But if you have a loved one that's a first responder, help this dude out, this chick out, help them out. I guarantee if they come to this conference, they will not be the same when they leave. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you. And don't forget, I got your 6.